there, it's Paul here and welcome along everyone. I decided what I'd do. I grabbed a piece of my oak that I bought from the local mill, which they sell as firewood, and this was initially like that, and this is about 150mm, just over 6 inches high, whichever direction you go, and I can't get it through my bandsaw. So I tried it on the lathe like this. It was off centre because of all the cracks checking or whatever you want to call it on that end. I needed to take that out, and it was just basically shaking the lathe everywhere, even at the slower speed. So I really couldn't put that on the lathe as it was, so I had to get my replicating saw out, and I've got to say I'm really impressed because that probably didn't even take me 5 minutes to cut through there, and it's done just the job. This runs reasonably well now. For size wise, it's roughly 6 inches by 6 inches by 6 inches, and I'm sort of getting an idea of what to do with it. But I mean, the first thing is to get it trued up, bent around, and I mean at that point you could effectively then cut it in half and have 2 bowl blanks, but I just don't think it would be nice if it was just a little bit deeper, and then you could probably get 2 bowl blanks out of it. Now, because this is obviously such a large odd shaped size, I'm not going to be standing in front of it this way. I am going to in fact do this left-handed and hopefully work across that way. At least that way, if any comes off here, it's hopefully going to come this way or across the back, and I'm standing over this way further, so I'm well out the line of fire. So I'm going to get started on this. As you can see, it's got a little bit of a shape to it as well on the lathe. I don't know if it actually shows up on the camera or not, but you've got this lovely staining in the wood. I had this on other pieces of oak as well, and it looks really, really nice. Right, I think what I'm going to do, rather than cut this in half to create 2 small bowl blanks, I'm actually going to have on the bottom here some form of a smaller base, which then goes into a stem and then comes out to the bowl. How thick that stem will be, I don't know. How thick the base will be, again, I don't know. So something like that sort of shape, so it's almost a bit like a goblet but as a bowl. Not actually done anything like this before, other than I think when I first started I actually created something similar out of 3 lots of softwood, which was left over from materials from when I built the workshop. So I think the initial thing is to just create the initial shape of the bowl here, not go down too thin here, because then at least I can then hollow out, and then after that, once it's hollowed out, carry on with the stem, and then finally the base. Right, that's a rough shape that I'm after. I want to bring it in a lot further in there, but I'm now gonna turn around on the end here and hollow out the bowl. So first thing to do is just face this off, because this is just far from level, and then start hollowing out. Right, I've got the shape inside now down to where I want. There's a slight, I mean, as you can see, this bulbs out inwards here at the top, and I've just done the same for inside. I haven't gone too deep, so I just need to bring this bottom edge around here, just to follow the contour of the bowl inside. And I've also swapped to my smaller bowl gouge now. Basically what I'm doing here now is I'm just taking this section here down further, and then it would just be a case of just gently rolling this over. And because of the grain orientation and stuff like that, it's actually a lot easier to scrape back this way. It's a bit like when you do a bowl. Ideally, when you do like the base, you need to sort of ideally start from the inside outwards. So I'm getting a lot better sort of cut and finish doing it that way. Right, that's a lot better. I'm actually quite liking a fairly thick stem like that. I might take it down a little bit. So next stage now, I've got the shape I want. I've just got to define the base last minute, so I'm going to get this all sanded up first. This has now been sanded to 400. and I do have a couple of nice cracks in there, and I'm actually not going to do anything with them. They're okay on the inside there. You can just see the white lines. I'll get that out of the way. You can just see the white lines where they are. On the outside they are a little bit more open. Yes, I could CA glue them, I could fill them with sawdust, but right now they would actually just stain all the wood, and I actually quite like them. If it ends up splitting all the more, then that's the way it's just going to go. So what I'm going to do first of all, I'm just going to give this a coat of sanding sealer, and you'll see how well this does actually come up, because that looks absolutely lovely. As you can see there, you can see the colours in the wood there, the stains. So there's the extent of the cracks, and they're just sort of like lines inside the bowl. And I think that's just come out really nice. So I'll leave this overnight, and then I'll probably knock the rain back and then decide what I'm going to do in the morning. So it's sort of a nice thick stem and just a small base for it to sit on. It's Sunday morning now. I left this overnight to have a think about it and totally dry off properly. I also had a thought about using Danish oil, but in the end I've actually decided for my shellac. So what I'm actually going to do is I like to actually use straightforward shellac that I mix up myself. So I will start off giving it a coat of that, and then I've got my mixture. I mean, you can actually just see on the bottom there, that's the tung oil element of it. And when you mix it up, it becomes like that. Now the beauty with the tung oil on there as well, so it's just basically shellac like this with a small amount of tung oil, is it lubricates the shellac. So I will start off with basically putting a coat of shellac on by hand without the lathe spinning. So it gets it on there first of all, let it dry a little bit, and then top up with this, then probably go back to the shellac because there'll be an oil going on the top there, and then keep going back just to give this a few coats. So that's how I'm going to start with straightforward shellac. And I'm going to see how well this just goes in. As it dries a bit, it then starts becoming a bit tacky. So I'll just leave that for about 5 minutes, well, 3 or 4 minutes now, just to cure a little bit, and then I will then just probably put this on with the lathe spinning. So in the end I gave this about 4 or 5 coats of shellac, and I've left it in my workshop during the week just to fully harden up. And what I've decided to do, I mean, I don't usually use wax much these days. I mean, Wood Wax 22, you can see, I mean, I've had this tin since I started turning about 16, 17 months ago, and I've still got loads left. But what I'm going to do is, because I mean, this has got, you can still feel the whole texture and everything in here, but just to smoothen it up a little bit, I'm going to give this a coat of wax. So I just let that set for a few minutes and it's just buff it off. Drop it. No damage. So I'm just going to go and finish that bottom off, and I will be back. Hello there, it's Paul here and welcome along everyone. I picked a piece of effectively what I bought from the local mill, was being sold as firewood, a piece of oak, and by the time I sort of trimmed it down it was 6 inches by 6 inches by 6 inches, so it was a nice square piece. It wasn't really thick enough to properly cut in half and make a nice bowl or two nice bowls, because I really just don't like the idea of wasting wood. So I decided obviously on something totally different, and this is basically what I come up with. Now, is it just a bowl on a stand? Is it a chalice? I don't know. I mean, it might just be too big for a chalice. I'm not sure, but obviously please do let me know. So it's all oak. It's fairly chunky. I mean, the top here, the lip there, is probably about 5mm, and it only just goes down to probably about 7-8mm at the most after as it just turns the corner. And that is really what I wanted. I wanted a fairly chunky stand as well, and something fairly small for the base to sit on. I mean, the bottom has also been finished off as well, as you can see there. Just sanded that down and just gave it a coat to finish it off with. It has a couple of cracks this side, and I believe there is a couple of cracks on the other side just where it ran through. I didn't do anything about those, I didn't fill them or anything like that. I just wanted the whole thing left fairly natural. Just gave it, I think, a couple of coats of sanding sealer, and then I just used my ordinary shellac on it. I did initially try my shine juice, which is basically shellac with a little bit of tung oil to basically lubricate the shellac. That way you can just get a lot more coats on quicker and with the lathe running faster. But that sort of seemed to all gum up on the inside here, and it was a right mess. So I basically used methylated spirits, denatured alcohol, just to clean the whole of the inside up, and then just start the process again. And I think that with the shellac only, and I did just give it a coat of wood wax 22 at the end, because it just helps smooth out the shellac, especially when it's hardened up. It's actually come up really nicely. Now, I mean, I don't know whether it shows on the camera there, but I mean, I love these markings in the wood, and I tend to get that a fair bit from the mill where I get all this oak from. I mean, I guess it's some form of a wood staining that within the tree itself. If somebody's got an explanation on it, I'd love to hear how that all forms. It's really interesting to see, and it's just started coming through there, and I don't know whether it shows up on the camera, on one or two of the rings inside. Not too much, but the outside here is where it really shows the most. It was totally from firewood, and I think I'll produce something which is really nice. So I know often, I mean, a lot of turners just buy their wood blanks from wherever they get them from. They're all kiln dried, already either square as a spindle or as a bowl blank as round. So I mean, I suppose here's a little challenge for you really. Go and find something which is effectively totally scrap wood, something you just wouldn't normally consider putting on the lathe, whether it be a branch which is all starting to split or something like that, whether you've actually got somewhere where you can go and pick up a piece of firewood. Go and find something which is just destined to be burnt, and see what you can come out of it, because it's actually really surprising of how nice of things you can actually make out of really scrap wood or firewood. And there's been a couple of people I've watched on YouTube, and especially Yuval. I mean, Yuval Lahav is the one person who really showed me probably several months ago on one of his projects that you can almost take almost any piece of wood and produce something spectacular out of it. And the other person recently is, that I've only really started watching recently, is the Rebel Woodturner, Al Furtado. And when you see half the pieces of wood he actually picks up, puts on the lathe, it's amazing what he comes out with them. I mean, they're normally pieces of wood that certainly the likes of me just wouldn't even consider putting on the lathe. And like I say, watching those two, I have actually found that unless the wood is just totally useless or it's going to fly apart everywhere, you can make something quite nice out of really scrap wood, firewood, things that just most people wouldn't normally turn. So if you're new here, please do subscribe, hit the little bell button, at least that way you'll get notified every time I upload a video. For my existing subscribers, again, as always, a big thank you very much for supporting me. And I'd appreciate if everybody would hit the share button, hit the like button, and please do leave comments below. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you on the next project video. Bye.